Chile and Argentina declare fire alert for several regions as forest fires increase and persist. Russian President Vladimir Putin met with his Belarussian counterpart to review the implementation of the 28 integration agreements. The Israeli army carried out a new attack against the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Now we begin with the news. Chile's government decreed an agricultural emergency for the municipality of Quillón due to the severity of the forest fires during the year, with a historic minimum of rainfall in large regions of the country. According to the National Forestry Corporation, the red alert persists for the municipality located in the central region of the Chilean territory, at the same time that an active fire with low intensity and propagation is reported in the advanced front, while there are other sectors with intermittent outbreaks within the burnt area. In total, more than 2,100 hectares of natural vegetation were ignited during the last month, out of the 28,000 hectares that affected the center and south of the Indian nation. So far, the Ministry of Agriculture has decreed an agro-environmental emergency due to water deficit in 226 communes of the country across the 9 regions, while there are other declarations of agricultural emergency because of production interruptions caused by bad weather and pests, to which Quillón will be added as a result of the fires. Emergency due to the fire, which will allow us to have access to both sectoral resources through the Institute of Agricultural Development and the regional government funds. We have declared and we remain on this topic. In Argentina, the Federal Council of Environment and the Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development declare a fire emergency throughout the national territory for 1 year due to the extreme risk of forest and pasture fires, while some 300 firefighters and 17 aerial anti-fire aircraft are working to control the fires in Patagonia. The Secretary of the Environmental Control and Monitoring, Sergio Federovsky, explained that the prolonged droughts, the shift of dry seasons in each season as a result of climate change, are the causes of the fire, and insisted on prevention as the most effective measure against these disasters. Floods in Brazil leave at least 21 people dead, 400,000 affected, and some 65,000 displaced. The heavy rains recorded in the northeast of Brazil since the beginning of November have worsened since Thursday, when a dam located in the city of Vitória da Reconquista collapsed due to the rise of the rivers. To date, 2 dams have been destroyed, and according to data provided by Civil Defense, there are 21 dead, 358 injured, and 116 municipalities affected. The last 3 fatalities have been registered in the last hours: a 60-year-old man who drowned on Sunday, a 33-year-old woman whose house collapsed early Sunday morning, and a 21-year-old man who was missing and whose body was found this Sunday and Monday, on the bank of a river. Heavy flooding in South Sudan destroyed more than 37,000 tons of grain, according to the latest preliminary report from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. According to the UN agency, more than 65,000 hectares of cultivated land have been submerged since May, with negative consequences for the food security of the population. The report noted that more than 835,000 people have been affected by the floods in 8 of the country's 10 states, with Jonglei, Unity, and the Upper Nile being the worst hit. The report also said that some 795,558 head of livestock died due to this year's floods. The President of the Republic of Peru, Pedro Castillo, appointed Rosendo Serna as the new Minister of Education following the resignation of Carlos Gallardo after being censored. The swearing-in comes after the censure of the now former Minister Carlos Gallardo for allegedly having leaked a teacher appointment exam to his daughter. The new Minister, Serna Roman, had been working as Regional Director of Education in Huánuco, but this Tuesday he agreed to be part of the Council of Ministers after meeting with the head of the Council, Mirta Vázquez. He was also a teacher at the Hermilio Valdizán University in the same region, and from 2014 to 2019 he worked in the position of Education Specialist within the department that he now leads. The National Electoral Council of Honduras confirmed this Tuesday that the Freedom and Refoundation Party accumulates the majority of the seats in the National Congress. The results provided by the governmental institution on the elections of last November 28th correspond to the parliamentary and municipal levels, 8 days after the ratification of Xiomara Castro as the president-elect of the country. According to reports from the electoral body, the Free Party obtains 50 deputies in the hemicycle, the National Party 44, the Liberal Party 22, the Salvador de Honduras, the PSH, one of the allied opposition forces, 10, and the 2 remaining seats correspond to the Anti-Corruption Party and the Christian Democracy. Venezuela's President Nicolás Maduro Moros called for the strengthening of sovereignty and national defense against external threats, terrorist groups, and drug traffickers. The statement of the Venezuelan president was made during the end of the year salutation ceremony of the Bolivarian National Armed Forces, together with the country's military high command. During this event, the Venezuelan head of state highlighted the loyalty and the firmness of the nation's armed forces in each of the scenarios in which it has had to defend the homeland. President Maduro decreed 2022 as the year in which Venezuela will be totally liberated from terrorists and drug traffickers, with the efforts and also the operations of the Bolivarian National Armed Forces.
Military operations continue to be carried out against the Colombian armed drug terrorists. They are enemies of the Republic, all the time called. Wherever they are, whatever they call themselves, whatever name they call themselves, all the time called are enemies of the Constitution, of the Bolivarian National Armed Force, and of the peace of the Republic, and they must be fought in the territory with all the military force of the country. I set a big goal for 2022, but I know that you will make it possible. 2022 must be the year in which Venezuela achieves a territory 100% free of Tancol, armed terrorists and drug traffickers from Colombia. 2022 will be the year of total liberation.
And we'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. More news in this moment. The presidents of Russia, Vladimir Putin, and Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, met this Wednesday to review the implementation of the 28th integration agreements signed in November. This is the 6th meeting between the two leaders during 2021, where they reviewed the implementation of 28 integration agreements signed last November during their last meeting. These agreements aim to deepen the interaction between Moscow and Minsk in the areas of taxation, customs, and common energy markets. They will also work to establish common policies in the financial, industrial, and agricultural spheres. The two countries have been advocating for the creation of a state union since 1996, but only 3 years ago did they make the progress on these agreements, which the governments consider mutually beneficial.
Suggested we will hold joint military exercises at the beginning of the year. Our military officials will finalize the dates in March or February. I don't know what dates they'll choose. They are continuing to shock us with sanctions. There have been 5 sanction packages, and they are speaking about a 6th. Though these sanctions are brainless and not needed by anyone, as we've actually increased our trade volume, and our GDP has grown in this year of sanctions and the pandemic. Russia played a major role in this. as well as our other friends in the international arena, though in lesser measure. I publicly and genuinely thank you for this.
The government of China stated Wednesday that it will maintain its stance on Taiwan's matters through 2022 and also warned that it will take stronger measures to crush separatist attempts and reject interference in the country's internal affairs. China's Taiwan Affairs Bureau spokesperson Ma Jianwan warned on Wednesday that Beijing will take drastic measures if the island moves toward independence. Ma said it is possible that foreign intervention and secessionist provocations could become more acute and intense in the coming months. The official also stressed that efforts to seek new forms of integrated development across the strait will continue. And China on Wednesday successfully sent the Tianhui 4th satellite into space from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in the northwest. The mapping satellite was launched by a Long March 2D carrier rocket at 1930 local time and has entered its planet orbit. The launch marked the 404th flight mission on the Long March series of carrier rockets. Previously, two Tianhui 202 satellites were sent into orbit from Taoyuan Satellite Launch Center in North China's Shanxi province on August 19th. The satellites are mainly used for scientific experiments and research, also land and resources investigations and geographic surveying and mapping. This Tuesday, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, sent an end-of-the-year message in which he called for overcoming division and inequalities, wishing that the coming year will be one of recovery for humanity and the planet.
2022, with our hopes for the future being tested, by deepening poverty and worsening inequality, by an unequal distribution of COVID vaccines, by climate commitments that fall short, and by ongoing conflict, division and misinformation. These are not just policy tests. These are moral and real-life tests. And they are tests that humanity can pass if we commit to making 2022 a year of recovery for everyone.
After wishing for the recovery of the pandemic, the economies and conflicts, Guterres called on society to unite in solidarity and wish a happy year for people and the planet.
Of great difficulty are also moments of great opportunity to come together in solidarity, to unite behind solutions that can benefit all people and to move forward together with hope in what our human family can accomplish. Together, let's make recovery our resolution for 2022, for people, planet and prosperity. I wish you all a happy and peaceful new year.
Now we address other topics. This Wednesday, Spain reported more than 99,000 new infections due to COVID-19. However, authorities are considering reducing quarantine time for patients with mild symptoms. This new number of infections exceeds the figure of 6 million people since the beginning of the pandemic. For her part, the Minister of Finance and Public Function, María Jesús Montero, stated that quarantine times could be reduced to 5 days if the disease is mild. Montero asserted that the idea will be carried out on the updating and the evolution of the pandemic, as long as the decision was based on clinical evidence. She also reminded that the nation is facing the 6th wave of contagion. However, she assured that the situation is favorable for the nation due to the fact that 90% of the population has completed the vaccination schedule. Athenians queued outside COVID-19 testing centers on Wednesday as the surge of coronavirus infections takes hold on Greece. Daily number of cases more than doubled in the day to set a new record. Health authorities registered more than 21,000 new infections in the last 24 hours. The health minister says the rapid spread of the Omicron variant was clearly responsible for the surge in cases, adding that new restrictions scheduled to start on January 3rd will be launched earlier following the jump in infections. They include the mandatory use of high protection masks at supermarkets, public transport, midnight closure for entertainment venues, and strict capacity limits at soccer stadiums, as well as scheduled changes from work from home orders for government workers.
I'm here obviously to control the situation and check myself. So we are getting rapid tests to know where we stand. If we are sick, if we are infected, then we are contagious. Yesterday's numbers were big. More tests and more cases, it looks like it's getting out of our hands. That's it.
France has recorded more than 200,000 cases of COVID-19 in 24 hours. A new daily record, Health Minister Olivier Véran said Wednesday as the Omicron variant continues to spread.
By the French Public Health Agency showed the continuous increase of the numbers of contaminations in our country. These figures are dizzying. There are 208,000 French people who have tested positive for COVID in the last 24 hours. I did a quick calculation before joining you. That means that 24 hours a day, day and night, every second in our country, more than 2 French people are diagnosed positive with the coronavirus.
The Chinese government continues to strengthen COVID-19 measures following the outbreak in Xi'an City, which has been confined for a week. This Wednesday, the Asian giant reported 192 new infections, of which 152 are locally transmitted cases registered in the city of Xi'an. So far, there are more than 900 cases registered in Xi'an since this new outbreak began. Xi'an authorities have undertaken a 4th round of mass testing to find potential cases and hope to control this new outbreak of the virus. On Wednesday, the World Health Organization warns that tsunami of Omicron and Delta COVID-19 cases will pile pressure on health systems already being stretched to their limits.
That Omicron, being more transmissible, circulating at the same time as Delta, is leading to a tsunami of cases. This is and will continue to put immense pressure on exhausted health workers and health systems on the brink of collapse. I'm highly concerned.
And we have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The Israeli army carried out a new attack against the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. The border between Gaza and Israel had been quiet since the clashes last May. However, the Israeli army announced an attack on Hamas positions in retaliation for a likely wounded civilian at the Gaza border. Local media confirmed the Israeli tank attack, as well as the wounded of several Palestinian farmers during the operation. The events take place after the Israeli Ministry of Defense announced the completion of a 65 kilometers barrier to separate the two territories. Thousands of women took to the streets of Kabul on Wednesday, pleading for the release of Afghan assets frozen in the aftermath of the Taliban takeover. The protesters marched through the capital carrying signs and shouting slogans as they called for aid to help tackle the country's troubled economic situation. International funding to Afghanistan has been suspended and billions of dollars of the country's assets abroad, mostly in the United States, were frozen after the Taliban took control of the country in mid-August. The lack of funding has battered Afghanistan's already troubled economy, leading to increasing poverty, while aid groups warn of a looming humanitarian catastrophe. Without greater access to foreign money, the Afghan economy is likely to contract by about 30% this year, furthering the humanitarian crisis. We ask the United States of America to release our assets. Our families, our children live in poverty and misery. We ask the media to broadcast our voices to be heard so they, the U.S., release our assets and we get rid of poverty and misery. Indonesian authorities on Wednesday authorized the landing of about 120 displaced Rohingya, who are on a ship at the risk of sinking off the northeastern coast of Indonesia. The boat, with a damaged engine, is leaking water and was found on December 26 near the province of Aceh, in the northeastern end of the Indonesian archipelago. According to non-governmental organizations, the authorities will allow the landing, citing humanitarian reasons in view of the risk. The Rohingya are a persecuted ethnic minority in Myanmar. In August 2017, the army launched a military campaign against the Rohingya population in the north of the Arakan state, causing the exodus of more than 725,000 refugees to neighboring Bangladesh, where they continue to be persecuted. In Sudan, at least 31 miners were killed and 8 are missing after a rudimentary gold mine collapse. The disaster occurred near Nuhud, a town about 5 kilometers west of Khartoum. In January, 4 miners were killed at the same mine. Artisanal gold mining is a dangerous profession in Sudan, largely due to ramshackle infrastructure. It flourished around a decade ago in various parts of the country, with people digging the ground using excavators in hopes of unearthing the precious metal. According to official figures, some 2 million artisanal miners produce about 80% of the country's annual gold production of over 80 tons. And in South Africa, mourners continue to bring flowers and pay tribute to late Archbishop Desmond Tutu near St. George's Cathedral in the Cape Town on Wednesday. The Nobel Peace Prize-winning activist for racial equality and LGBTQI rights died Sunday at the age of 90. Tutu will lie in state at the cathedral in Cape Town for 2 days, Thursday and Friday, to allow all the mourners to pay tribute by filing past his coffin. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa announced that Tutu's Requiem Mass Saturday will be a special official funeral Category 1. His ashes will later be interred at the cathedral's mausoleum, according to Tutu's instructions. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.